chicken massaman curry. So this is a Thai style curry, something a little bit different to serve to your family. It's a delicious meal that I'm sure would be a hit with anybody you serve it to. So I have some yellow curry paste here. That's what I'm going to start with. And yellow curry paste is a mixture of lemongrass and different spices that are bound together with a little bit of oil. So this is sort of a pasty consistency, and we're going to use this to marinate our chicken, and this will also become the base of our curry, so that delicious curry flavor. So to this I'm going to add a little bit of oil. You can use peanut oil to be authentic, and if you didn't want to use peanut oil, you could certainly use canola, grapeseed, any other oil that you're interested in. A little bit of salt just to help season everything. And I just want to mix this up to sort of stretch out the curry paste to get those flavors to come together. I'm wearing gloves. Curry paste can sometimes be a little bit spicy, and it's a sort of a messy job, so gloves work well, or you can also use a spatula to speed this process along. And then to this paste, I'm going to just put some boneless, skinless chicken thighs in, and I want to marinate these for about 10 minutes. I like to sort of mix these around, get the curry paste all over the chicken, and let those flavors really sort of sink in. You can massage the paste into the chicken thighs, and then we'll just set that off to the side and let it marinate for just a minute. Now, I'm going to start with my pan. I have a large Dutch oven here, and to this I'm going to start to get my aromatics going. So I have some cinnamon sticks into some warm oil. I also have some star anise. This is a fairly interesting ingredient. It's available at specialty spice shops. Sometimes different grocery stores will carry it. It's an anisey flavor, so that black licoricey flavor. It's actually the back of a flower that they dry out, and it's got a really, really strong anisey note to it that's going to add a nice touch to this curry. So again, we'll just sweat that in the little bit of oil in our pan here. Just want to mix them around. And then the last ingredient I'm going to add in here is some cardamom powder. And cardamom is a pod that they grind, and it has a really floral note. It's really quite special. If you can't find it though, you could definitely leave it out. So we just want to saute this. You can hear the sizzle. To that I have some shallots that I've just cut into large quarters. A shallot is a small fancy onion. So we'll add that to our oil. Just want to stir these around and get those spices to really coat with the oil, coat the shallot. And what I want to do is have this over sort of medium-high heat so that my shallots start to get a little bit of color. As they cook, it's going to get a little bit sweeter. So that sweetness is going to come out, and it's really going to help season our curry all the way through. Okay, so these have sauteed for a minute. The flavors have come through. All those spices are really aromatic, the cinnamon and the star anise, that licoricey flavor. So what I want to do now is scoop out the shallots. Try to leave the spices in the pan if you can. If you get some out, that's okay. What we're doing here is making room for the chicken. As the chicken goes in, we need to have some real estate on the bottom of the pan in order to brown our chicken. So now to this, I have my chicken that I've been marinating for about 10 minutes. You can see the curry paste is coating it really beautifully. All those flavors are going to come out. I have my pan over high heat, and I'm just going to lay my chickens in. You don't want to overlap them. You want to hear that sizzle. What I want to do is get some color on my chicken. So just lay it into the pan. You can cover the entire bottom of the pan, but you don't want to stack any of this. Just like so. If they don't all fit the first time, you could do this in 2 rounds. Make sure you get all that delicious curry paste in as well. So we have a good amount of color on the one side of this chicken. So what I'm going to do now is just flip these all over so that you can get a nice sear on both sides. And what you're looking for is some nice golden brown color there. You can see some delicious flavorful bits. So we'll just flip this over. Again, the spices and everything in there are going to be really great. The aroma coming off this is amazing. It'll really get your taste buds going. So we'll flip that over. Then what we're going to do is add our shallots back to this. Get those in. So as those cook in, that'll again add a whole bunch of sweetness. And then we're going to add a braising liquid to this. So I have some no salt added chicken broth or chicken stock, which I'm going to add. And this is going to do 2 things. It'll take some of those flavors off the bottom of the pan, the caramelization flavors. So we'll add that. Just enough to cover the chicken. And then I also have some fish sauce. And fish sauce is a great seasoning agent. It's available at most grocery stores. It comes in small bottles, and it adds a really nice salty flavor to your food. So a little bit of that goes in. And I'll just stir this around a tiny bit. Make sure I don't have anything stuck to the bottom of the pan. If you find you have anything stuck anywhere, you can just give it a little scrape with your wooden spoon or stirring utensil. So make sure everything's nice and covered. And then I'm just going to place a lid on this pot, bring it up to a good boil, and then turn it down to a simmer. And I want to simmer this for about an hour until your chicken's cooked all the way through. Those flavors are going to cook right into your chickens, and it'll be delicious. So my chicken's been cooking here for about an hour. I've turned it down to a nice simmer, so it's just sort of lightly bubbling away. And what I want to do now is add sort of the last pieces to this. So some potatoes. These are yellow potatoes that I've just diced up, or Yukon Gold potatoes they're called sometimes. And these are great potatoes to cook with because they don't break down. If you used a white fleshed potato, it could break down and just it goes grainy. These will hold up, and they'll also release some nice starch to help thicken your curry and really give it that body. I'm also going to add just some fresh basil. This is whole fresh basil on the stem. You can find fresh basil at most grocery stores. You could also use dry, but the fresh is a really important step here. So ideally it's fresh. And these are going to go in whole, and they're going to cook that really beautiful fresh flavor into this. And then the last ingredient I have is some coconut milk. 1 can of coconut milk. It's 400 milliliters. There's different kinds of coconut milk. This one says for cooking right on the can, and that's a fairly important thing. Some coconut milks have a stabilizer in them that will break when you cook it. So as you bring it up to a boil, it can separate, and then you'll have a oily film on top of your curry. So try to look for one that says for cooking. It'll make a nicer product in the end. And we'll just put this whole can in. That's going to make this delicious and nice and rich. So we'll stir this all together. And then the lid will go back on, and we're going to cook this for about another 25 minutes, just until our potatoes are cooked. So our curry's been cooking for about 25 minutes now. I'm going to open it up. You can see it's simmering really nicely. The potatoes are just cooked, so they still have a little bit of bite to them. They're wonderful. So now to finish our curry, we want to add a little bit more seasoning, but we also want to pull out our hard spices. You don't want to give one of your guests, some cinnamon or some star anise. You can't really eat that. So you want to make sure that you kind of fish those out. And then what I want to do to finish this is season it again. So we want to add one more layer of flavor. So we want to have a little bit of sweet and sour and some more fresh herbs. So I have some brown sugar. The brown sugar is going to really sweeten everything up and make it nice and rich. So we'll sprinkle that in, and it can get stirred in. It will give you a really beautiful sweetness. And then I want to add a nice bright note. So I have some more basil, just whole fresh basil. You don't have to chop it. It can go in, and we'll stir that in at the very end. And then the last ingredient I want to add is tamarind. You can get tamarind paste. It grows as a pod, but the paste is prepared, so it's been ground up and pureed. If you have a hard time finding this in specialty Asian shops, you might need to use lime. And a lime works just as well. You want that citrusy note. So what a lime, we're just going to squeeze this in. But to cut this lime and squeeze it, instead of cutting it across on the equator, I'm going to cut it a little bit differently. First I'll roll it under my hand to soften it a little bit. And then what I want to do is from the stem, cut it into 3. So on either side of the stem, I'm just going to slice through this. And what that does is it keeps the core of the lime in the middle, which is the hard part to squeeze. So this part you can just slice through. And then the 2 sides, there's nothing holding the little segments together. So you can easily squeeze those with just 3 fingers. You want to get all the juice out of that. And then the middle, we'll get the juice out of that as well. So you get that great kind of limey sour note to finish. And then the last ingredient I'm going to stir in is just some fresh chopped peanuts, which are going to give you a nice crunch and again add a really nice texture note to your delicious curry. So we'll sprinkle our peanuts on over top, and you can serve this just like this. You can serve it over rice. It's a fantastic dish that I highly recommend for you and your family. Visit atcoblueflamekitchen.com for more tips.